Okay. This half cigarette is lying on the ashtray. God, now it is up to you and you decide. Now, when he is saying that, he's not coming from a place of like, oh, you do. It's not a laissez-faire attitude. Remember that when we speak of surrender, it does not mean, Bhagwan dekhenge sab kuch. It's all up to God. What is there for me to do? No, this is not called surrender. Surrender does not mean that I will not do my work. Uh, I will be inactive. That is not how surrender works. See, here also Arjun does enormous action, but he does all this action in surrender. So that is what surrender means. And surrender is something which will happen in a heart which is full of devotion, where there is a lot of shraddha in that heart, where you have built a relationship with the divine. Only that heart can truly genuinely come into surrender. Does anybody have any experience to share? I could share one of mine, really something which happened with me. This was 5 6 years ago. My son had a certain issue. It was a certain medical issue, and I found a doctor in New York. I was in New Jersey, and I was trying to coordinate an appointment with him. He sent me a message that, okay, I will be able to see you on uh, on Saturday or something. He gave me some time, but I saw that message late. And then I requested him that, can you please, do this on Sunday? He's in school. I cannot bring him. And I live so far away. And I kept sending messages to him, to all the clinics, where he is connected, because Sundays they were closed. And I was trying to find some way to connect. And it didn't happen. Then I told my son, let's just go. This was a Sunday. I said, let's just go. This was on a Saturday. He had said that he would be available in the evening, but I saw the message late, so I wasn't sure if he would actually be there. So I was taking a risk and I said, let's go. Maybe he's there. He did say if I could make it by 5 p.m., he'll be there. But because he didn't get our confirmation, maybe he's left, but I'll take the chance. So we went all the way to New York. All throughout that trip, in the bus, I'm very connected to the Devi. I connect with her. I connect to my guru, and I was like, this is it. Whatever I can do for him. uh, I've reached out to many people. Whatever, there were certain issues, and I just kept calling on to them that this is the best. It's not that I sat back and said, okay, Bhagwan dekhenge. Nahi, Bhagwan nahi dekhenge. You have to do the effort. So I took that risk, traveled all the way. I get off at the New York station, and and this doctor calls me. I was trying to reach him and I couldn't reach him. I was not sure whether he was going to be there. I just had an address, and I said, we are going to take this shot. And he calls me up just when I get off from the bus, and he says that, Swati, I left because I did not get your confirmation that you were going to come today. So I said, can you please come? I've come from so far. And I was literally pleading with him because he is the best who uh, who was available in that area, in that field. And I was recommended by doctors in New Jersey to go to him. And I think he heard that pleading in my voice or whatever. And he said, see, I understand you're upset and you want to do this, but Swati, we can't. I don't work on Sundays. Then I said, please, can you come just once? I just want you to check him out. And then yeah, he said, okay, where do you live? So I told him I live in Livingston. So he said, okay, I may have a creative solution for you. It just happens that tomorrow I have to go for a funeral, my friend's funeral, and it happens to be in Livingston. And he came to Livingston. He came and did a home visit for my son. He came home and met my son. I had totally left it to the Devi, saying, this is all I can do. What more do you want me to do? I can call up doctor, I can fix an appointment, I can move my body, I can take him there. Now what? And it happened. How does this happen? It's not very common. No, how many times is it that a doctor, and in America, they will come to your house, and it's just a situation. It's not even like he came. It's just that situations just fell like that. The arrangement of things happen. I, I have many times experienced that when you give yourself fully, if that shraddha is there in you, and if your longing is like madness, It has to be nothing short of madness. That's why, when you say, Varsha, that when the pain of ignorance, that pain of ignorance should kill you. You should. I have broken down into tears when I left Hong Kong because I said, because I didn't have my teacher. I was like, I don't have a teacher. How can this be happening to me? I was suddenly missing everybody, all the group that I worked with. It has to become like a madness in you, like a literally, it becomes like a scream inside you. So, so that is the level that we are talking of. It's not something just, ha, gaye, worship kar liya, agarbatti jala li. That is not devotion. It is, you may not have any of that. You may not do any worship, but inside you, your heart beats like you can hear it. So then things begin to happen, and the source of creation will begin to respond to you in ways that you will cannot imagine. It's like how Sadhguru says, no, I wish for you things that you cannot even imagine happen to you. So it's I don't know, I just bought that in. So outer senses don't have energy, inner senses pull the sikai. Why did I start on this? I don't know. Where was I? And went into Shraddha and devotion. Okay. Okay. Yes. So you have to be devoted. You have to offer it to the divine and then leave it to him. It is not by my own ego that I will be able to channelize. It's the using the ego or using my own willpower is like one part of my mind is suppressing another part of my mind. That is one way to look at it. Another thing is, I sit here and say, I'm not going to be dominated by my senses. Now, that's a very egotistical approach. I'm not going to be dominated by my ego. And if I win in that battle, my ego will suddenly, it will get caressed. It will feel so good. Now, I will accumulate more ego. This itself takes me away from the path. You get it? So you can do that. It's not to say that willpower is something that you must give up. Willpower is very important, but you must apply the will without uh, letting ego accumulate. Then it's okay. So the paths, so in Yoga Sutras, and I had written that in the group chat, we are given two paths. There is Abhyas, which is the path of willpower, but even in that, ego must not accumulate. If ego accumulates, then Ishwar Pranidhanadva. That means offer everything to God. So even your tapas, whatever you do through your willpower, it should be done as an offering to the divine. Otherwise, you may reach far, but you will never really reach. So that is something which has been explained. All right. So I think I covered this last time. Mm, that we are living on conditioned patterns and all these conditioned patterns. It's one more example that Osho had given on that conditioned pattern, that somebody is used to doing that 10 minutes of prayer every morning. Okay. That ritual happens every day in the morning for 10 minutes. Now, one day you don't get a chance to do that, complete your 10-minute ritual. That day you keep feeling empty. Do you feel empty because that ritual fills you with a sense of bliss? Or do you feel empty because my ritual did not get completed? Think about this. Look at yourself. This is also a tool for awareness, a lens to look at ourselves as to, is it bringing us a lot of joy, which is what we are missing? So just observing all this within ourselves, or is it just that you are so habituated to doing something that when that habit does not get fulfilled, it creates a certain sense of emptiness? Is it habit which is creating it, or is it missing a certain sense of bliss or joy that arises from that ritual? Okay, so now a very, very interesting point. Place for pleasure is really in the mind and not in the body. Swami Sarvapriyananda says this, and Osho has also said this. He says, distinguish between needs and desires. See, look at this. Needs belong to the body. All needs belong to the body. Body is simple. It will get hungry. This is how the body is. It is. This is how it is structured. The body is simple. It will get thirsty. Now you are going to sit here and say, I will build my willpower. My body will not get hungry. It will not. What are you going to achieve out of this? It is a very simple need. It is hungry. You give it food. Now you can give it dal chawal and it can become, and it It will be okay. The body will be satisfied. But the mind is not like this. The mind is full of desires. The mind will say, hungry? Dal chawal? No, I want a buffet. So the mind is the place of desires, the body is the place of needs. Observe this. These are all awareness tools. These are all lenses that we are taking. So Bhagavad Gita will leave us with a whole lot of lenses. It will be a box of lenses. So when you want to look at life and understand life better, you use one of these lenses to see from this lens what is the perspective, what is my understanding. Is it a need or is it a desire? What kind of surrender is this? What kind of am I working from habit or am I working consciously? Do I really enjoy this? And is this a conscious choice or is it just a habitual ritual that I'm doing? So these are lenses to use as we and remember to keep them in your toolbox. So I really like that, where he explains that desires belong to the mind, desires don't belong to the body, and needs belong to the body. And he says body is a very simple thing. It's very simple. Little thing you give, it will start obeying. You don't give it food for 10, 15 days, it will start obeying that also. There was this practitioner in our group. I don't know how many of you know Vandana in New Jersey. She went on a 20 she did it actually for health purposes because she was going through certain issues, and she did a lot of research, and she figured out she had to do some cleansing on herself. Gayatri knows. When I had just moved to New Jersey for 21 days, she went on a no food fast. I think water she was having, only water she was having, 21 days. But the body is like that, it will respond. It will, slowly, 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 it will become like that. It is very simple, it is very obedient. Mind is not like that. Ask the mind to obey. So deconditioning. So how can we decondition ourselves? Because we are in all of this habitual mechanical pattern. So the way to decondition yourself is to put your mind into God, merge your mind with God. And see, when we say, you just offer your actions to God, very nice. I appreciate that. And maybe some of us can do that. We can simply do something as an offering. But more than that, and I have observed this through my study and through my own practices that we took up in the bhakti chapters, is you will come into that coalescence with divinity only when you begin to marinate your mind in the divine. You have to literally marinate your mind in the divine. You should start seeing him, working for him, doing everything. It's like he is the throb in your life. Everything is centered around him. Everything. Every action you do, the work you do, it's not like a mental, logical thing. Okay, I will do this work and then I will offer it to the divine. It's like everything is around him. uh, we will do take up some practices once we come into chapter 7 and then look at it, but the mind has to marinate in that which we call as divine, and then these things start happening. So Ramakrishna Paramhan says, devotion is love for the highest and the lowest shall fall away. So yes, love for the highest is also a desire. Love for the divine, uh, desiring the divine is also a desire, but that desire is acceptable because all other desires fall away. So Ramakrishna allows that. Osho says, the individual who does not suppress himself anymore, who no longer deceives himself, surrenders to the divine. Such an individual is no longer at the mercy of his own senses and by becomes free from his own desires. It is really about marinating your mind in the divine. That is how surrender will begin to happen to you. Surrender is not something that I will do. If you are going to do the surrender, that means your I is very strong. Oh, I will surrender. Oh, today you surrender, tomorrow you may take back your surrender. This is not surrender. Surrender is like the blossoming of a flower, which results because you marinated your mind in God so much that it is automatic. It's like Radha, what Radha feels for Krishna, or it is like what Hanumanji feels for Ram. His mind is soaked in him, no? It has to be drenched in divinity. Then surrender is a natural blossoming. It's a state. You cannot surrender. Surrender is a ghatna. It's like an occurrence. It's like a happening inside you. Uh, so, all right, let's continue. I think this was Now, to decondition, ask the divine for support. Know that willpower is suppressing one part of the mind and trying to make another part win. In the end, you lose because ego accumulates. We discussed that. This is just summarizing. Simply surrender to divine and let the past karma finish its course. Sometimes that also happens. You can't change things. You just let it run its course. Let it happen. You know, yesterday I was listening to something from Sadhguru and he says, it does happen. You know, you're walking on a street and sometimes you're walking along smelly streets. So when we are going through these certain karmic patterns, you know, it's like just smell from the past, from the old impressions that we have. So he says, don't worry about it. Just let it be. Keep walking. It will go away. It's all right. Don't make a big deal about it. So, and then slowly we will decondition, but don't hold on to it. Why is this smelling? Now I want to remove it. Leave it. Just let it be there. Okay, it is there. It will finish. Let it run its course. Few more days, everything passes, everything changes in life. That's the lens to use in those times. 60-second. 60-second verse. An individual who focuses his attention on material objects becomes attracted to the same objects. An individual who focuses his attention on material objects becomes attracted to the same objects. This happens, no? See, when a new film actor comes, it's not immediately that people take to him. Sometimes I'm saying, but as you keep seeing the same face again and again and again, you know, it becomes easier to accept, or he becomes a celebrity because you become used to it. If you are seeing something that you have never seen before, sometimes the mind has no receptors for it. So it will not accept it. But once it is seeing the same thing again and again, that's why fashions and trends catch on, because you're seeing it all the time. So the mind catches on to it. So whatever it focuses, whenever it focuses its attention on material, it becomes attracted also to the same objects, because whether you like it or not, media, it's pulling your attention in that direction. It's making you focus on certain things. Okay, this is the trend now. This is the fashion now. So this is what you like. This is how you will dress up. And as a result of his attraction to material objects, desires will rise. Okay, so you are walking into a shop, you may see an outfit. Now, if you're simply seeing, it is seeing. But the moment you say, ah, so beautiful, you know, that is the first layer of desire. That's the first subtle thing which has begun to happen, because now you have assigned a label to it. It is beautiful. Now, an attachment is attraction has begun to happen. And as you keep seeing it, that desire to possess will also happen. It begins first by the mind assigning words to it, and then it begins to turn into an active desire. And when there are obstacles to the fulfillment of desires, anger arises. This is very important. So first we have attraction, which creates desire. And when desires are not fulfilled, there is krodha. Kama and krodha are always connected. Out of anger, attachment arises. Okay, go with this carefully. Osho has broken down every word and explained how are each of these connected. He's given you the scientific structure behind this. Out of anger, attachment arises. Okay, we'll go through it, but just listen to the verse first. And out of attachment, memory becomes altered. दिमाग खराब हो जाता है, you know. People lose their mind over things, and you don't see things as they are. And when the memory is altered, intelligence, that is to say, the power of knowledge, is destroyed. And when intelligence is destroyed, buddhi nasha, an individual loses the means to attain bliss. This is going to keep you in the cycle of suffering. So Swami Mukundananda has translated this as anger leads to clouding of judgment, which results in bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, the intellect gets destroyed. And when the intellect is destroyed, one is ruined. Notice the difference between the translations. Osho has called this as intelligence and not intellect. Many common usual commentaries may use the word intellect, but it is very limited. Intelligence is what we are talking about. Those of you who follow Sadhguru, he often speaks of intelligence, that the system has an intelligence. Your body has an intelligence. It is not by your power that you are digesting the food. There is an intelligence in the body which digests the food. It is not by your mental conscious calculation that you are breathing. There is an intelligence in the system which breathes. Even when you are asleep, you are breathing. It is keeping you alive. How is it happening? There's a coding inside, there is a software inside, there's a chip which is coded to work like this. So Osho has described actualized intelligence is called intellect. Intellect is a small portion of intelligence. It is not intellect that Krishna is talking about here. We'll look at this in detail. So, how the mind begins to deteriorate. Through kama and krodha, mind will deteriorate, it will decline. Attachment, from attachment, there is a desire. From desire, there's an anger. So, first is attachment. I walk into the shop, okay, and I see that perfume, I see that shoe, whatever, you see the car, and there is, there is a first, it's like a coalescence. This outer object has connected with something inside me, like a sense, a samskara from past lifetimes or whatever has connected with inside, and there's an attachment. It's a very subtle samyoga. Maybe you're not even aware of it. You say, I just saw it and it was beautiful, but an attachment has already happened. It is very, it may be faint, but it has happened. And as this keeps, you may go there multiple times or you see other people doing this attachment can gain momentum. When this attachment, this faint attachment gains momentum, then it becomes desire. It will become an active desire which will say, I want it. I want to possess. Desire is all about possession. Um, sorry, sorry. So So the sangati, the company of a particular material object creates attachment. Kamaha, with desire, leads to desire, and then it can lead to anger. So how can desire create anger? If your desire is not fulfilled, if there are obstacles in the path of your desire, it will create anger and I want this and I can't get it. I want to be first in class, I can't get it. Or I want to buy this, I don't have them. I want to be in this position, but I can't get to this position. I want to be the CEO of the company, but I can't be. So whenever there's an obstacle, then anger rises. So desire will create anger also. Kama and krodha go together. So one thing I want to tell you, Swami Mukundananda, from his commentary, he says anger, greed, lust in Vedic scriptures are considered as the diseases of the mind. Okay, it's called as manas rog, and and yes, Krishna is right now giving us the functioning of the mind and the psychology behind this whole thing. So. Uh, So first, there is a gentle wave that will rise, and then as it gains momentum, that subtle thing becomes tangible. So that first coalescence, that attachment, and then kama, desire happens. Okay. Now, uh, what happens to people like Krishna and Buddha, those who are enlightened, is that the moment it happens at a subtle level, even at a subtle level, they are able to recognize that in this body, see, they are also sitting inside a body, correct? A Krishna or a Buddha is also sitting inside a body. And body is nothing but desires, correct? It's not that, but they are aware of who they really are. They abide in their Atma consciousness, their what we call as Swarupe, in their self. They are abiding in their self. So they are not identified with their body. That is why when they are abiding in the self, if something rises in the body, they are quickly able to observe it. Because body is like that, no? Uh, if it's very cold, the body wants, it desires warmth, isn't it? This can happen to a Buddha also, this can happen to a Krishna also, because they are also sitting inside body. But the moment this happens, they are able to observe it. Oh, the body desires warmth. Do you see? We are not like that. We will become compelled. It's so cold, I need warmth. We become like that. We become the body. I am cold. I am cold. I need a sweater. I need a heater. If it's snowing, I'm freezing. Correct? Do you get what I mean? A Buddha and a Krishna are sitting inside the self. They are sitting inside the body, but they are away from the body, so they can simply see this is happening to the body. Those of you who have read this book by Sadhguru, Three Truths of Well-being, Sadhguru says he had, hurt his leg in the motorcycle. It was bleeding and it was so bad. He went to the dispensary, and that doctor said, we don't have the equipment to do the operation on you, and you need to go to the nearest whatever, and to the smaller hospital. He says, doesn't matter, you go ahead, you use whatever instruments. And the doctor was worried, telling him that this is going to really hurt. He said, it doesn't matter. He says, I'm in pain, but I'm not suffering. These are people who can distinguish, who can keep the body slightly away. I'll tell you, I was in an Art of Living program, and the teacher who was conducting it, he said, Gurudev Shri was he had a dental appointment. He went through some dental work without any anesthesia. It is not that the pain does not happen in the body, but these people are abiding in the self. So it does not become them. It's like if the hunger happens, we don't say hunger is happening in the body. I'm hungry, and imagine if you've not eaten for 3 days, you are really hungry, isn't it? Do you get what I mean? How an enlightened being can see something which is slightly far away. He can observe the subtle rising of desires. It is not that desire is rising in him, because he is in Atma consciousness. Do you get what I mean when I'm saying that? Yeah. Yes, people who are new. Shravanti, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, Swati.
Okay. So just want to make sure, because those who have
Yeah.
done Yoga Sutra, I know they understand, but everybody, I'm not sure. Okay, so um, yeah. So they can see this rising in the body. And the moment they see it rising in the body, they simply observe it at a seed state. When you observe something at a seed state, simple awareness, you shine the light of awareness on it, it burns. The desire itself is gone. Then whatever is happening to the body will happen. Okay. But in us, the seed is there, it will start becoming a tree. And then we are chopping off trees, and then we are creating forests. So desires keep multiplying like that. They can simply observe it, and that is why these people do not take on a physical body again. The physical body is nothing but an accumulation of desire. Today, I was just noticing from morning, like, every moment is nothing but a desire. Nothing. I want to sit outside. I want to go in the sun. I want to sit like this, or I want to eat this food. I want the table to be placed here. Everything is I want. I was noticing I'm nothing but one. Every second I'm nothing but a desire which is rising. That's all I am. The body is just like this. The body is composed of desires. If you had no desire, you wouldn't have any body. So um so the desire to possess happens. When we cannot possess, then anger rises. And uh, and yes, unfulfilled desire will deepen your attachment, isn't it? If you did not get what you want, then you are even more attached to it. I want it, or in a negative way, you are pushing it away. One of the two things can happen. Does that make sense? This is the connection between desire, anger, attachment. All right. Now let's,
Swati,
yes.
I just this previous slide talked about memory becoming altered.
Coming to that.
About that?
Coming to that. We are coming to that slowly, step by step. I'm breaking the whole thing down.
Okay.
All right. Now, what is the connection between desire and obstacle? See, this is very interesting. When there is a little bit of an obstacle to your desire can become even more intense. Notice this. You know, women who are veiled, suddenly they are more exciting because they are hiding behind veils. Now that desire in that man to see what's behind it's even more exciting. So when uh, it's like, when people are dating, then they want to play hard to get. They want to create some obstacles, isn't it? Doesn't this happen when people are dating? That is what it is. Because a little bit of obstacle in the desire is going to intensify the desire. When married couples lived in a joint family, there was more excitement among married couples because they didn't get so much time together. There is some romance that is happening there. Now, with the kind of setups that are there, it's like everything is so easily available that the desire becomes dim, it can become dull. That fragrance of romance can go off because there is just no obstacle to it. So Osho has explained it like this. So prohibition can be an invitation, isn't it? Alcohol is prohibited in Gujarat, and that itself can be an invitation. So, so that is the connection between desire and obstacle. An obstacle can also work like a little bit of oil in the fire. Now, the next one is connection between anger and attachment. Now, see, if your desires are fulfilled, whatever you want gets fulfilled, no anger can rise in you, correct? There is no anger in you. If obstacles are removed, anger also is removed. If there is no obstacle in my path of my desire, then also I don't have any anger. So when does anger? Anger happens when there is obstacle, I'm not able to achieve or get what I want. Then anger becomes like a reaction. I'm not able to get what I want and I react, and that's anger. However, it can stay for some time. As soon as I get what I want, the anger disappears, correct? So Osho says anger is like uh, anger is just like water boiling at 100 degrees. You know, it can return back to a calm state. But attachment is like water which has turned into vapor. Once it turns to vapor, bringing it back to the state of water is harder. So, because what is attachment? Attachment is something that makes you blind. Remember, we spoke of Tulsi Das's story last time. Varsha, you were here when we spoke of Tulsi Das's story last time? How he was, blinded by his own attachment. You were there for the story? Correct. So he was blinded by his attachment. He was so attached to his wife that that corpse which was floating in the water, he thought that was wood, and he just hung on to it and swam across the river. So blinded. This is called blind attachment. When you are attached to something, you don't see things as they are. You are distorting the structure in your brain, the code which you come with, the capacity to know and see things. It is getting distorted. It is getting maligned. So when mind is blinded by attachment, then memory begins to alter, because memory now cannot record facts as they are. It's sort of overwriting with its own attached, with its own desires and attachments. Does that make sense? With Tulsidas's example, it makes sense. So that's how memory begins to get altered. Now, see, even if you remember that example of that old man whose house is burning, remember we spoke of that example, and then his son comes and says that, oh, yes, I sold the house, and the man becomes so happy. Then another, son, then he gets another message saying that, oh, but the deal did not go through, and this man again becomes worried, oh, my house is gone. So every time there is an attachment, how you think, how you feel, it gets colored. You don't see things as they are. Does that make sense? That is why Krishna has explained it as memory begins to get altered, because memory is part of that intelligence. Intellect is part of that intelligence. He's speaking of these two aspects. So, um, so the job of memory is to record facts. But when attachment exists, memory cannot record facts correctly. Is that true? Is that your experience? Correct. So that is what he means by memory getting altered.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I, as you were speaking, it reminded me of my mother-in-law. So my father-in-law was a very healthy, strong man, and then he was diagnosed with cancer, and then for the next 2 years he was very sick, and he passed away. But her memory has altered. She does not remember those 2 years. She just remembers him well. And any kind of, talking about him or any kind of story about him, it's like she's altered her memory, and she's like, oh, if dad was here, he would go pick up the children, or he would go to the grocery store. Like, she's completely, in her mind, blocked those 2 years out of her timeline. And does that kind of correlate to what you're saying, or not really?
Her attachment to her husband is not recording the memory as it is. It is recording in the way she wants to see it, which
Right.
I think is an alteration of memory. I think so.
Okay.
Because it is her attachment to it. She doesn't want to see things as they are, unless, I mean, I don't know if this is coming from, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is her medical condition. But if there is no medical condition,
No, there is not. Right.
then that is an altering or a, yeah.
I mean,
But see,
alternatively, it could also be that the person is trying to protect themselves from reliving the trauma that they lived
correct.
through because it was so
Right.
painful that they just block it out. That happens to a lot of people.
Right. Right.
But that is also attachment, na Sangeeta? Like wo bhi,
No,
that is like a
like I've
negative.
heard of other situations where like there was childhood abuse, like maybe even physical or sexual abuse, and the person has no memory of it, no memory at all. Like they absolutely don't remember that it happened. So I've read of books and I've read of cases like that. So I think the brain has this tendency to block off experiences of when they're too painful to relive.
Correct. And Sangeeta, maybe this is why, in Yoga Sutra, they say go back to pratiprasava. You have to relive it so that you have to relive it totally, and then you will exhaust it, because this is becomes a form of suppression. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you think? Isn't it in some way you're trying to
Yeah.
suppress it because it is so negative for you? So you have
Yeah.
altered. And in
In
Yoga
in
Sutra,
psychiatrists call it titration, which means like you take it little by little, like you titrate the re-bringing of the memory, and then that's how they treat it.
correct.
They don't give it to you because you'll get re-traumatized, so they'll just bring it to you little very bite-sized portions so you can actually process it and get it over with, like go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then if that is the case, that means that is an attachment which is creating distortion of memory. This is what he's
Mm-hmm,
talking about. It is.
mm-hmm.
I think in both the cases, this applies because there is attachment. Attachment can be positive or negative, which is craving for something or averse. So averse to
Correct,
it that you want to cover it up. So
correct.
in both cases, the truth of Krishna's statement holds, that there is, we distort, memory does not record facts as it is, and these become hindrances for people on the spiritual journey. Then when they come to spiritual journey, they will tell you relive it. Like in Yoga Sutra, if you go, there is one technique which is given by Maharishi Patanjali, which is called pratiprasava. So he says, you live your life backwards, you go back every day to sort of start working through it and be total in it, because only in totality can you exhaust things. If they remain suppressed, it will not get exhausted. It's like you're cutting the tree, but the roots and the seeds are there. How will you burn it? There is no other way but to burn it or simply grace.
Mm-hmm.
These are the only two ways for a spiritual seeker to come into liberation. Either you work through the path of awareness, kriya, sadhana, so that you start slowly burning those seeds. Attachment and cutting these out is like cutting the trees, which is what we had heard, which is what we were being explained. You are not burning the seeds. You are chopping the leaves and cutting the branches, and you think everything is clean. Nothing is clean. Inside there is a whole lot of, whole lot of nonsense that needs to be worked on. So yes,
And that, Swati, just goes back to the term samskara. So that pain or that difficult situation or that injury, physical or traumatic, emotional, could have happened in your childhood. It could have happened in your past life,
yes.
and it has imprints in you. And as you are saying, that by noticing those physical or other emotions, we can understand that these are our samskaras and work towards that. That does sound like that sounds like the Yoga Sutra connection that we made with Pratipasava. And also I think the word Bhumikatva, which was, as you said, like the flow, like the incremental improvements that we make towards transformation. Like, and if you're not attaining that is also considered a kind of laziness or slothfulness in Yoga Sutras. Like not flowing with that flow, not going with the flow is also considered
Correct.
a kind of slothness or laziness or
yes. that is also an obstacle to your journey. So it's okay. These things will happen. Sometimes you will not have peak experiences, but that is also okay. That is also that is considered as an obstacle, correct? Yeah. So okay. So then so we spoke about this memory and attachment. So memory and attachment are inversely connected. Okay, you have to understand this. So the job of memory is to record facts, but it cannot do that when the attachment so if attachment is excessive, memory cannot record facts. It becomes distorted. They are inversely related. Understood? Does that make sense? Obviously, if my attachment is very high, my memory wants to distort, like Tulsidas's case, right? Correct? If I don't have any attachment, my memory functions properly. It can record, and as it records, if I have my awareness is very high, I can watch it. And in that watching and in that witnessing, I can dissolve things simply by watching and witnessing. But if I'm going to suppress and hide and cut, it's not going to work. All right. Now, what is the difference? See, attachment and love also this, gets confused. So Osho has addressed this and I liked it. So attachment, love is not attachment, okay? Love is in fact non-attachment. Love flowers where there is no desire. And love nourishes memory. Anger will destroy memory. So see, there is this Radha and Krishna. See, Radha loved Krishna, but Krishna leaves Vrindavan and never comes back, never asks Radha how you are or gets in touch, gives her her flute and says, I will never play this flute again. This flute is yours. After that, he never plays the flute. But Radha's love never turns to hatred. It never turns to jealousy. It remains love. So, the story goes that when Uddhava, who is Krishna's cousin, when he is visiting Vrindavan after a long time, and Uddhava is very has a very strong inclination towards the path of Gyan. He doesn't know anything about bhakti. Krishna actually deliberately sends him to Vrindavan to meet the gopis, and he gives him this message. Take it for Radha and the gopis. So Uddhava comes there, and he sees all these Nand, Yashoda, that Krishna is gone. We just live for Krishna, and he sees their intense love for him. And then he goes and gives this message to the gopis, and he gives it to Radha, and Radha says, "You have got me a message from Krishna. I see Krishna everywhere. I see Krishna in this flower. I see Krishna in the sky. I see Krishna in this blossom. Where is he not? Where has he left me? He has never left me." And that is a very big thing for Uddhava because he is always towards the path of Gyan. And for the first time, he sees this level of devotion saying, how can you see him everywhere? Don't you miss him? Aren't you angry with him? So, this is the quality of love. Love is a state of fulfillment. It only wants to share, it only wants to give. This is love. This is not attachment. Attachment wants to possess. Love is the reverse of attachment. It wants to give, it wants to share. Okay. So, all right. Now, memory and intelligence. What's the difference between these two? So, see, attachment is the word that is used is sammoha. And if you remember in Yoga Sutra, we spoke of hypnosis, how all of us are simply moving through life in a hypnotic state, conditioned patterns, whatever we are habituated to, not even thinking about it and simply doing it, just running the motion. So that is sammoha, a state of hypnosis. This attachment leads to altered memory. And when memory is altered, intelligence gets destroyed. So you understood what altered memory is. When memory is altered, intelligence gets destroyed. This is so the human system has an intelligence. See, and this is my own thought. So when we are saying that, digestion is something, I cannot make it happen in my body. It's not by my willpower, my calculation that, food is going inside, it is getting digested, the rubbish is getting excreted. It is not by my power that the breath is going in and out. So this is the intelligence of the system. Does that make sense to you? That means there is some sort of a code or a software or a chip inside me which is making all of this fantastic activity happening flawlessly. Does that make sense to you? This chip is called intelligence in the system. Okay, understand this as intelligence. Today, what happens to people? See, we are seeing sadness, we are seeing depression, we are seeing so many mental health issues. What is happening? In some way, it is connected to this. Do you see? This is my own understanding. It is connected to attachment, it is connected to memory getting distorted. Isn't it happening to people? And then when this happens, they all start experiencing some kind of physical issues. First is my gut has gone. Isn't it? The gut has gone. People are getting IBS. Isn't it? Isn't it coming from a state of the mind is creating issues in the body? Because the intelligence is getting corrupted. It's like a virus that has gone inside the intelligence. Does that make sense to you? Yeah? Yeah? Is that making sense? Just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, so a virus has gone, it's corrupted our intelligence. That's why Sadhguru says, so he speaks of intelligence. And you know, this is the intelligence of the system. So we all come with a very intelligent system. Now, memory is not intelligence, it is a faculty of intelligence. We all understand this. It's part of intelligence, okay? First, memory is destroyed because there is a virus, and then the intelligence gets corrupted. That is why we start experiencing disconnects and all kinds of issues that are happening. High school is the place to look at. Actualized intelligence is intellect. So this is the definition, and this is the distinction that Osho gives. That which is not yet actualized is also intelligence. That is why intellect and intelligence are two different things. Intelligence is the whole software with which you have come, which carries not just that which is actualized in this lifetime through my action. So what is, does it make sense to you when I say actualized intelligence is intellect? It's like I have lived for 50 years. I have applied myself to many things in life, and I have learned certain things, and therefore those things have become part of my intellect. I have observed, I have learned. So maybe I have learned to write. See, a simple thing like writing. This is part of intelligence which has been actualized, and therefore it falls in the category of intellect. Or, I have, through my observation or study, uh, learned, okay, don't put your hand in the fire, it's going to burn. These are the effects of it. This is also actualized through action, through study, through experience. So actualized intelligence has become intellect. That is my intellect, but intellect is a very small portion of your overall intelligence. Intelligence exists also as seeds. It's like your software, it's like a code. If you just keep giving it certain stimulus, it will just, that's why, they say some of these kriya practices and all we do, like you go even for Sanyam programs. When I did with Sri, they say that hidden talents will come out because intelligence carries many hidden talents. Some of you may have even experienced it, based on your sadhana or your practices. Hidden talents are coming out. Things that you did not think you were capable of, suddenly, it's flowering. So, Usha, it's happening. Share with us. Tell us. What, which talent did you discover with your practice? Tell us, Usha. No, she doesn't want to talk, but she's nodding her head. Okay, fine. All right.
I can
So
share one
please go ahead.
small observation and about anger and how when it comes and I'm more aware of it, the talent that I'm getting is that I feel like I'm just more happy because I
Very nice.
can just recognize the anger, the irritation, the usual sequences that happen, and I can
Mm.
catch them, and I can realize that it is just in my way of thinking that I'm creating this anger. It could be something very small that is important for me, but nobody else around me is considering it important, and that's making me upset and sensitive. But the moment I realized that nobody's deliberately trying to create this situation, and it has brought a lot of comfort and the talent I can notice is that I'm just being able to do things in a better way. I don't know, I'm just more energetic. I feel like good
Very
energy,
nice. Mm.
right? That kind of thing.
So it's like literally uncovering the spring of joy. They keep talking about it. No, do your practice, awareness. The spring of joy will open up. and it's just coming out of you. It's just springing because your nature is joy, but you have put so much soil and mud and distorted your memory. It's not coming out. So your awareness is probably cleaning that up, and it's coming out, showering out, fountain.
True.
Yeah, so the fountain of bliss, some uncovering is happening. Nice. Okay. So intelligence is a seed, knowing. So remember, we speak of this. No, knowing is intelligence, and capacity to know is intelligence. But that which has become knowledge is intellect. Does that make sense? I spoke about this knowledge and knowing. I know there are 5 fingers. Okay. Nobody has to tell me, or I can just see it. So knowing is direct perception, and knowledge. Knowledge has been called as intellect. That which has been processed, actualized intelligence becomes intellect. Okay. So this will come a lot in later as we move into the chapters on Gyan. There is Vritti Gyan and Swarup Gyan. So
But Swati, this
hmm,
intellect is not wisdom, right?
this intellect, so it can contribute to wisdom, Sangeeta. I would put it like that. But this is not your inner wisdom that we are speaking of in our spiritual sense.
Okay.
The intelligence is the source of pure wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence, intellect is just a small aspect of it. It can contribute towards your journey towards wisdom. That's how I understood it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Okay.
Swati, so
Uh,
memory becomes like a prerequisite for intelligence and thereby intellect?
Memory is an important aspect. And memory, Sadhguru, when he speaks of it, he says there are 16 kinds of memory. So don't think of memory as just what is happening in this lifetime. Memory refers also to evolutionary memory. Like that's why they say, no, in a grain of, in a, Buddha says, no, in a grain of sesame, just one sesame can tell you everything about the whole world. That is why just this one life, if you understand just this one life, just yourself, you will know everything about the cosmos, because the evolutionary memory, of what has happened in the universe, you have also come from there. See, there is like, this is the cosmos, okay? There is a seed of the cosmos that has come and gotten trapped inside the body. But this seed carries everything. It carries evolutionary memory. There are 16 different kinds of memory. I don't remember all of them, but uh, uh, anybody else knows all the different names of the memory that Sadhguru speaks of? At least 4 or 5. I really don't remember. I'm sorry. But I'll share that piece where he speaks of the different kinds of memory. There is conscious memory. Okay, we all have conscious memory, right? I know whatever is happening, whatever is, but conscious is such a small part, no? Just 9 or 10% of the brain, 90% is unconscious. So in this unconscious, there are different kinds of memories at different layers. So they say when Buddha became enlightened, 543 lifetimes he saw himself. He saw himself as a bullock, as a cow, as everything, whatever has happened to him. So that is why when these rishis, when they meditate and they go within themselves and they realize the nature of the self, how did the Vedas come about? How do they tell us that the sun is at this much distance from the earth, that this is the diameter of the sun? In those times, there was no equipment to find this out. But because they dived within themselves and they discovered the seed, they sort of uh, blossomed every seed of intelligence within them. Right now, our seeds of intelligence are sitting at seed. They were able to fire every seed, so everything became known to them. That is how Vedas got written. Otherwise, how did they know? So you can know the whole cosmos. So don't think of memory. Here, memory gets distorted is the chip of the memory will start getting scratches. Just look at it like this. But the memory is not just conscious memory or small portions of memory like how we understand in our language. Memory means the source of where you came from. There are many aspects to memory.
And Swati, I'll give a quick example of
Yeah.
evolutionary memory that you mentioned. So there's, and you can Google this, for this man called Daniel Kish. He turned blind when he was very small, like a baby, but he was, as you said, Swati, that it's there ingrained, it's like there for us. He began his brain helped him to start using echolocation, which is like being able to listen and hear through sound waves. So Daniel Kish has learned as a blind man to be able to bicycle, walk, hike, and live a fairly normal life as a blind man using what bats have. So in our evolutionary brains, we were at some point, the bat memories was there, and he was able to tap on that. And he actually has come in the New Yorker and Atlantic and various magazines, and he has started to school other blind men. And they have found that they can actually tap and start using their bat memory, which is, something that we have forgotten about, to be able to hear using our, these ears that we have forgotten how to use them anymore, because we use our eyes so often that we have forgotten that we can actually do echolocation. So just going back to your idea, your concept, as you said, right, a small grain of a seed has everything that the cosmos has. That kind of example that I thought would, make sense. And I found this in one of the there's a very impressive video of where somebody posted him of saying that basically he just fell off the crib, and he just began making sounds, and the path began opening up for him. And his parents, who were very they were very encouraging, they didn't stop him and from making those clicking sounds. So basically he makes clicking sounds, and the waves that come back to his ears, he's able to map the shape of the room that he's in.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how bats in real world, that's how bats travel through echolocation, and that's what he's kind of tapped into. So just wanted to share that as
That's
how much we are
wonderful.
capable of, and we just tend to not tap into day to day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to say that what you said about those 16 different types of memories, that makes so much sense, because how different people have different type of intelligences. Maybe not all our memories work, at least for normal people.
Maybe.
And thereby some people has an intelligence and they make fantastic sportsmen. Other people can cook very well. So you have this different intellect that gets sparked because of these different channels of memories that are working, and there are others which are not working for whatever reason.
Makes sense. I mean, logically, it absolutely makes sense. And that's why when you are on the path, you are able to spark certain neurons, certain, neuronal integration happens, and new talents also show up. Maybe, yes, like she said, tapping into that intelligence. And while we are on this, I want to share with you, Sadhguru had mentioned this. So there is a chant. See, there are many chants. There is one study which was done on Vairagya, the Nirvan Shatakam, what it does to your brains. I'll share that study with you and Nirvan Shatakam. These two volunteers actually went to the Nimhans Institute, and they had this, the electrodes put on their brain, and what it was doing, what Nirvan Shatakam did to your brain. Sadhguru had once mentioned that there is a chant called Shiva Shambho. I will share it with you, the sound also. He says if you just chant this and you chant it like this, it will fire up your intelligence. So I will share both those things with you, but this is how it is. Intelligence is everything. It's our chip that we have come with in this body. So okay, so that was nice. And spiritual bankruptcy. So memory is altered, intellect gets destroyed because now knowledge gets destroyed. You don't know what is what happens with, I'm going back to Tulsidasa's example, everybody knows intellect is destroyed. Okay, he's not knowledgeable about what he is doing. He is on hanging on to a corpse thinking it's a block of wood. When intelligence is destroyed, all is lost. Okay, so this is very, Osho says that today we do not worry about this, with all this mental health issues, etc., intelligence getting destroyed, the risk that it poses. We are still worried about our money and our investments and our funds. We do not worry about spiritual bankruptcy. We are only worried about our monetary bankruptcy. So he has mentioned this. Um, And this is buddhi nasha. Out of anger, attachment arises, and out of attachment, memory becomes altered. And when the memory is altered, intelligence, that is to say, power of knowledge, is destroyed. And when that is what power of knowledge means your power of perception. How to know something is only through perception. If your intelligence is destroyed, you have no perception power. You will never see things as they are. And that is buddhi nasha state. It's like mati bhrasht. An individual loses the means to attain bliss. Okay, so this shloka was important. It has been broken down. Now, an individual enjoys freedom when his inner wisdom does not include attraction or aversion. He enjoys worldly objects, but he is not at the mercy of his own sense. That is to say, he rejoices as he has attained inner wisdom. So, an individual who enjoys freedom, when his inner wisdom does not include aversion. So, see, if we are dominated by our own desires, then we will become dependent on others. Spiritual bankruptcy actually means that one will become dependent on the other. You're not self-dependent. You're always dependent on the other. So, and this is why that Miracle of Mind app has been launched. Sadhguru said, I don't know how many billion, some number he gives, this much billion people should meditate in the world. If they meditate, suffering generally for humanity will drop down. Because, remember last class we spoke of desires, how everybody's desires are connected. We are all interconnected. Body is just physical, but we are all connected. This is a big network of human beings, of any living beings. So we are all crisscrossing. So if a certain percentage of population becomes meditative, it will benefit everybody else. Meditation is something that you never do just for yourself. Every time you meditate, you are helping others as well. Not only that, you also help. I will share it with you. Sri had spoken on it, and I shared on some of our groups how it also helps our ancestors. So that is why that Miracle of Mind, to encourage people to meditate, they've even tried to encash your meditation hours, but meditate, because just the number of people going through mental health issues and what is happening to our spiritual fabric, it's really, spiritual fabric has become so weak. So now a person who has gone beyond attraction and aversion is a person who is centered in himself. He is not dependent on others. His life does not revolve around others. My life does not revolve around money. My life does not revolve around my husband. My life does not revolve just around my house. I am the center of my life. This center is very important. And if you are dominated by desires, you will notice that your life is not revolving around your center. You have other people and other things as your centers. So, so what he's trying to say here is that when an individual abides in samadhi, he is established in his center. There is nobody else who is his center. This much makes sense to you? Like, we've seen the life of Buddha. Yes, Shravanti.
Yeah, so it is always said that we should not run away from our responsibilities, right? So if we are so much centered to ourselves, then how is that balance happens?
Okay, when I say centered to self, I don't mean become selfish. When I say I'm centered to myself, which means stay balanced, which means stay aware of your own center. Remember, we did that slide where we said that if a person is walking on a rope, he is not leaning on the right side to lean on the right side because I want to lean on the right side. He is leaning on the right side so that he can maintain his balance because he saw that he was leaning on the left side. So it is not about right, left. It's not about spouse or this thing. You can continue. I can continue looking after my children. But if I stay centered, Shravanti, I will do a better job of looking after my children. I think if yoga had happened to me sooner than it happened, I would have been a better mother, a better wife, a better employee, everything. Because you become so aware of yourself that you start noticing all those. I think I would have shouted lesser. I would have I would have just been a more pleasant person, I think. So, this, when we say centered on the self, is that he is very aware. He maintains his balance. He does not tip his balance. But when you are running with your desires, your balance is tipped. No, because desire means now you're clinging. Now there's attachment. Now you're clinging. Now you're running outside. You've forgotten this. You've forgotten your balance. Only desire has taken a grip of you. Does that make sense?
But I wish that a mother should take care of kids very well. Is that
Yes.
not desire?
You should absolutely take care of your kids. So while I'm taking care of my child, I will also keep an awareness on myself. How am I taking care of my child? You know, if my child is doing something, I'm going to start shouting at him that you should not be doing this thing. Then I am moving away from my center. This practice of centering is telling you to keep watching and stay balanced even while you are engaged in your relationship and in your responsibilities. Nobody is telling you to give up children, to give up your responsibilities. So let's make that very clear. Centered on the self means staying balanced. It does not mean becoming selfish. Please, is everybody clear about that? Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Does that make sense, Shravanti?
Yes, Shwati.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
having said that, we
Yes.
can also have unhealthy attachment to kids when we become overly identified with the role of a mother or parent and think our identity as a mother is more important than our, other responsibilities to the evolution of our soul or something like that, right?
I agree with that. So that is what, no? So, I will tell you something. Just because you're a mother, you think 24 hours you should be running around your children. Many mothers think like this. Okay. They will start feeling guilty if they are not doing it. This is a foolish way to live. If you do not take care of yourself, you will not have the capacity to take care of your children well. So, like everybody is told that you must make at least 20 minutes to go within. It's very important. So, in that, I would not call that selfish. You take 15 minutes to have a bath. You sit down to eat food. Why? Because you have to survive. What makes you think that if you are spiritually bankrupt, you can do a damn good job? You will not be able to do it. So why are you calling it as selfish? If in one, I will tell you, in one satsang with Sadhguru, somebody asked Sadhguru, Sadhguru, I come back, there's so much to do, so many things to finish, and then you give us this 20-minute, 30-minute Shambhavi also, and I have to work with my family and manage all this time. He said, tell me, if your family cannot give you 30 minutes, 20 minutes to do your own practice, what kind of family is this? He actually said that. What kind of family is this? You are going crazy, running after, you cannot take 20 minutes for yourself? So nobody is telling you to be selfish. You are being told to be balanced. Like Sangeeta said, don't get overly attached to that. So if you are aware of yourself and your own balance, you will become very aware. I'm getting too attached to this, or I'm leaning too much to this side. I must do a little bit of this so that I can stay centered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Shwati.
Okay.
I
All
don't
right.
want to deviate from this topic, but I also have a question between desire and obstacle. We can talk at the
Okay.
end.
Okay. At the end, let's take that up. Okay. Just you put it in chat and we can take it up.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, sure.
So 64th verse. Okay, okay. So the person who becomes established in himself, a Buddha, the one who comes into Buddhahood is a Purusha. He is somebody who abides in Purusha consciousness. This word Purusha is very significant. In Yoga Sutra, we have a model, a 25 Tattva model in which Purusha consciousness is the highest. Now, see, Pur refers to a city. That's why we have Nagpur and Kanpur. It's a city. So even in this, Purusha dwells in this city which is trillions of cells. And you are the Purusha. Purusha does not mean a man, it just means a being, a human being. So you are the Purusha that is dwelling in this city. And the one who is in Samadhi is abiding in Purusha consciousness. Here, two things are being said. One, the one who is centered abides in Purusha consciousness and he is beyond aversion and craving. One is, and the other is that for you to come into that state, you need to watch your your orientation. You have to keep establishing your balance to keep walking towards that state of Purusha. Okay? Okay, are we good? All right. To come into a state of samadhi, only someone who is in samadhi is established in that. Right now, none of us are established in that state. So we all have to be conscious and aware to keep establishing our balance, to keep taking steps towards that inner journey. Now, this is from Swami Mukundananda. I wanted to share it. Thus, whenever Sri Krishna, this is from a bhakti commentator on the same shloka. Thus, whenever Sri Krishna asks us to give up attachment and desire, he is referring only to material attachment and desire. Spiritual attachment and desire are not to be given up. In fact, they are most praiseworthy. They are to be cultivated and increased for purification of the mind. The greater the burning desire we develop for God, the purer our mind will become. Shravanti, there is a story I shared on group chat today. I want you to read that story. Very important on this idea of attachment, and I'm a mother, so I should be with the child. How should you manage that relationship? And it is there is absolute involvement in how this person takes care of the child, and yet there is no attachment. Watch that, and that will be very helpful, because no child is going to stay with you. Okay, children are going to go away. You will be alone. Every human being is ultimately alone, even our own family spouses. I saw my mother pass away, my father was left alone. What are you counting on? What are you so attached to? Only your own breath and your own body will be with you till the last moment. So pay attention to this. We all come alone. It is nice that we can all get together. We have the company of these people to share our journey. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to hold on to it. It was not going to work. Don't, uh, I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, the 65th verse, in this clarity there is absence of all suffering. So when a person comes into samadhi, there is absolute clarity. He established in inner wisdom, there is absence of all suffering, and the individual whose consciousness is blissful swiftly and easily moves into stillness. This is very beautiful. Now, there is a clarity, there is a prasanna chetas, there is a certain sense of pleasantness. Now, if we all have a restless mind and we want this state of inner wisdom, okay, we have heard, okay, if you come into samadhi, you are centered, you're well established, you're in a state of pleasantness, no aversions or cravings have a hold on you, you're free from attachment. So I should get into that state, right? But right now, the moment I look at myself, my mind is so restless, isn't it? So I decide, all right, all I have to do is make my mind restful, beat this mind, and then it will all become calm, and I will be abiding in clarity of wisdom. Does that sound logical to you? Isn't it? When people are given a meditation practice, the first problem they have is, you ask me to sit down with my eyes closed, I have 100 thoughts running in my head. Yes, it is going to happen. In this shloka, Osho explains, don't think that that inner wisdom or clarity that happened to a Buddha or to a Mahavir or to a Krishna happened because they took their restlessness of the mind and just suppressed it and they came into clarity of wisdom. No, it doesn't work like that. This inner clarity of wisdom happens first. Inner clarity of wisdom happens first. Restlessness of the mind is a consequence, is an effect of restfulness of the mind, is a consequence and effect of that clarity of wisdom happening. Does that, let's get this very clear. Osho has explained this. He says, you take wheat and you sow it, and wheat grows. Along with it, husk also grows. Okay? You start thinking, I am going to take the husk and sow it and wheat will grow. It will not happen. So, first, inner clarity, wisdom, the seed, the wheat has to happen. If this wheat happens, then the restlessness of the mind will go away. Today, when we do meditation practices, all of us go through many thoughts running in the head. There is no problem with it. Don't think that if I'm sitting in meditation, all thoughts should disappear. No, it can happen. A glimpse of it. These things sometimes happen. So in one of our satsangs with Sadhguru, somebody asked Sadhguru that, you asked me to do this meditation. I'm following the instructions, but I have so many thoughts running in my head. He said, what is your problem? Your mind, your brain, which has taken millions of years to evolve, the job of the mind is to generate thoughts. Let it generate. What's your problem? You just do what you have to do. You just follow the instructions. That is all you are meant to do. So it's like this. I'm walking on a street. Now the street is smelly. I have to be established in samadhi. Nothing should smell bad. No, it will smell bad. You just keep moving. It is, don't get stuck to it. These are things which happen on the way. Okay. So the innermost wisdom is a thing that has been called as antahkarana. Okay. See, many times, see, this whole idea of wisdom is connected so much with I know what to do, know what not to do, the right and the wrong, and the conscience of a person being clear. Many time, this is slightly digressing, but since Osho covered it, I will talk about it, because this idea of antahkaran is explored in great detail later on in the chapters. The innermost wisdom in which a person gets established, this is called the antahkaran. Antahkaran is not conscience. Today, many people think antahkaran is conscience. Antahkaran is not conscience. Antahkaran is an inner instrument which is closest to what you call as Atma or self. So if this is my Atma, my Antahkaran is here. Okay, Antahkaran is here. It's like a mirror and it just reflects Atma. Atma is pure. Nothing can be purer than this. Correct? Atma can never get sullied. It is just that when you go away from it, you start experiencing all kind of restlessness. So Antahkaran sits here, and after Antahkaran, all the other instruments, Prakriti, Manas, Buddhi, Ahamkar, all the other, our action, body, all of this follows that. So how Osho explains it, he says, if you come into your Antahkaran, if you are established in this Antahkaran, you will experience this clarity, this inner wisdom. How to experience? How should I come here? How do I come into this point? So he says, you imagine this is like a candlelight, okay? Now, candlelight, if I keep going away from here, it is not so bright here, but it's very bright here. So I may be here right now, okay? Very restless, everything is dark. What do you have to do? You just start moving towards this direction and you will come into Antahkaran. Your practices, your meditation practices, your kriya, whatever you are doing are taking you towards Antahkaran. How to know that I am moving in the right direction? How to know that I am moving towards that state which which is called as inner wisdom? He says, see, it's like a park. You are moving towards a park. Now, you can feel the cool breeze. There is some indication you're moving in the right direction. Then you get the fragrance of flowers, and you see trees. Some experiences are happening that are telling you that you are moving in the right direction. That is how you move towards Antahkaran, which is the innermost wisdom. You will come slowly and abide into that. And once you abide into it, this restlessness of the mind will fall away by itself. You don't try to control the restlessness of the mind. You will become restful as a result of being established in your inner wisdom. He says very clearly, Antahkaran is not conscience, because in many translations it is called as conscience. He says it is not conscience because conscience is a social phenomena. It is about morality. In some cultures, Muslims, it is okay. It is all right to have 4 wives. There is nothing wrong with it. And they do it so that, women can be protected. They will have somebody who will look after like that. But in certain communities, it will be considered a sin that you don't have a conscience. In certain communities, you can marry even among cousins. And yet, certain other communities will say, oh, that is sinful. So, this is all you have a conscience. How can you do this? Because conscience is all about right, wrong, morality. Antahkaran is not about that. Antahkaran is a state of inner wisdom that is closest to the Atma. It is a state, once you are established in it, you are in Buddhahood. Okay. So, so once you become established in it, what happens to such a person? Prasad. Life is joy. Prasade. Everything becomes prasad. If you remember in Yoga Sutras that there is I have that slide. Everything in life becomes a prasad. For such a human being who is established in samadhi, who is established, who understands this inner wisdom. You know what this inner wisdom is in Yoga Sutra? Ritambara Tatra Prajna. We spoke of there is a cosmic order. You suddenly begin to see the cosmic order and you don't see anything as negative. Today, we divide life as negative and positive. But when you come into this state, there is no negative. Normally, you would say that this is dark. Darkness is not good. But when you come into this high state of consciousness, there is a tree. It's a bright sunny day. It is very hot. There is a tree and there is a shade, small place of shade under the tree. Normally, we would say, oh, dark spaces, but it's not a dark space. Suddenly, that shade under the tree is so beautiful. You see, everything is complementary. You don't see anything as negative. Everything has its value. Does that make sense? And this is the prasad of life. Suddenly, all conflicts dissolve in the mind. Why do conflicts exist? Because we think this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. But when you start seeing everything is beautiful, there is no good, bad. Now everything is prasad. Whatever is coming to me is just grace. Even that darkness under the tree is not darkness, it's shade, it is protection, it has its value. Then you see everything as beautiful. So this this sutra is really, this shloka is an important one. It's really about the seer is separate from the seen. We've discussed that in the previous shlokas. So so how do you experience the purity of inner wisdom? You have to keep walking towards it. It's like, another example he gives us, like there's a mountain and there's a valley. There are lots of clouds. People are sitting in the valley and there are lots of clouds and all they see is darkness. Somebody is there on top of the mountain. And he says, no, you just keep climbing the mountain. It's so bright and beautiful here. But you say, no, it's so dark. They say, no, just keep climbing. It will happen. Our sadhana, our practice is like that. Keep doing, keep increasing your awareness, and you will come to that point. So the candle is burning here. Your Atma is that candle, and you just keep walking towards it. And that's why some of us have those experiences of deep clarity sometimes on the way. Okay. Does that make sense? Antahkaran is not the self, it is the self which is holding a mirror and is reflected in the mirror. The innermost instrument closest to the self is called Antahkaran. And I'm telling you, if those of you who do Vedanta studies, they will give you a whole structure of Antahkaran. And we've done a work on Antahkaran in some of the later chapters in Gita. And there we will get into the structure of Antahkaran. But for now, just understand it like this. Okay, it's not conscious. Remember that. So this is by divine grace comes the peace in which all sorrows end. So if you become established in it, everything in life is bliss. Imagine if everything in life becomes a prasad, whatever happens to you, you start seeing this as a blessing. This is what happens to Buddha. No, whatever happens to him, he sees it as a blessing. Somebody spats at him, he says, this is also good. Some old karma over. Everything is a blessing for him. He doesn't see, such a being does not divide life into negative and positive. Everything is as it must be. This moment is inevitable. Everything is as it must be, and everything is beautiful. This is how he sees it. Okay, in which all sorrows end, and the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind soon becomes firmly established in God. So those of you who did Yoga Sutra, this is the place where Antahkaran sits. Just after Purusha and before Buddhi, it's somewhere here, just for us to structurally understand where is Antahkaran. It is the point which is closest to yourself, which is closest to your Atma. Okay. This is from you remember, this is from Yoga Sutra, those of you who studied Drishta Drishyayo Sanyoga Heya Hetu. When the seer and the seen combine together, this Sanyoga, this coalescence, Sangati, the word used in Bhagavad Gita is Sangati. When the Drishta, the seer, that which is observing and that which is the observed start coming together, a coalescence happens, some yoga, and that begins to create suffering. And you have to break that coalescence. Nirvichara Vaisharadya Adhyatma Prasadaha. When does life become prasad? This is really, chapter 2 is complete in itself. It is giving you the highest knowledge. Chapter 3 to 18 of Bhagavad Gita is expounding on that. In some sense, it's complete. And that's why chapter 1 of Yoga Sutra is complete. 2, 3, 4 expound on that. When does this state of prasad happen? When you come into nirvichara samadhi. Then life becomes a prasad. So this is just from, I had kept it because some of you connect to it. Uh, mm, the discriminating person realizes that everything leads to misery. We spoke of this, no, that life is just suffering because that is how it is. Changes will keep happening. If you think happiness, I have become happy, just wait. It's just gathering momentum. The pendulum will swing to the other side and there will be unhappiness. So in some sense, we discussed in the previous class how happiness and unhappiness are really the same. There's no difference. Everything keeps becoming dukh. So and that's what even what Buddha says. So because of change, anxiety, past experiences, and the conflicts that arise between the three, because of rajas, tamas, sattva. We spoke of all this. All right, let's move on from 66. If a man is not connected to his antahkaran, his intelligence is not at its optimum. He has no perception of the innermost instrument. And the individual who has not reached his inner wisdom cannot be peaceful. How can one attain bliss if one has not known purity? So there will be no bliss. Bliss is seeing life as prasad. What does it mean? To be in bliss. We are all, seekers, and we are working in some sense towards that state of anand, because somewhere we have realized whatever I do is not bringing me fulfillment. And, I thought, I really genuinely in my whatever I thought, okay, I have this and I'll be fulfilled. But no, something else happens and I'm not so happy. And what is the point of this? At some place I should just be, happiness should be replaced by happiness, should be replaced by happiness. There should be no misery in my life. I don't want any misery in my life. And is that possible? Yes, it is possible. If you have an enlightened existence, it is possible. There will be no misery in your life. Pain, because you have a body, there will be pain, but there will be no misery, no suffering. Life will become prasad. Whatever experience happens to you will just be a blessing. So there is one thing that purity of wisdom is also connected to feelings. Now, mm, see, why don't we experience peace? Today we are not experiencing peace. We are in conflict. Why? Because we are fragmented. One part of the mind says one thing, another part of the mind says another thing. So because we are fragmented, uh, our perception is not clear, um, and we are not peaceful. Okay. Now, uh, so if you are not at peace, how can you experience happiness or ultimate bliss? You can't. Even to enjoy your food, you have to be peaceful. No, you cannot even enjoy your food if you're not peaceful. Peace is a very basic requirement. Okay. Now, there are people who will say that they are overwhelmed by their feelings. Okay. And I want to take a little time and explain what feelings mean. So sometimes we say that we are overwhelmed by our feelings. So there is this example that Osho gives, the story of a man, a zamindar, who banishes his son out of his house because he's upset with him. He doesn't agree with him. And then, after many years, as he's becoming old, he's missing his son and he wants him back, and he puts this advertisement in the newspaper, wherever you are, please come back, and all of that. And finally his son responds to him saying that, okay, I will take this train on this day, I will come, I will meet you at the station. Now it so happens that the train comes, the son gets off, but the zamindar is a little late. He misses him, he doesn't know where he is. So finally, he goes to the whatever dharmshala, and he says that, okay, I will stay the night here, because so that we can look for him, find him, see what if who are the people who got off, etc. So when he goes to the dharmshala, the manager says that there are no rooms available, but he says, what are you saying? I'm the owner of this dharmshala. You can't give me a room. So that man says, there was a beggar who checked in. You want me to throw him out? So the zamindar says, yeah, just throw him out. So he goes to that room and he says, throw this man out. And it's snowing outside, and this man has stomach pain, and he says, please don't do this to me. And I am in so much pain. Still, they throw him out, and the zamindar goes upstairs. He sleeps. Next day morning, this man dies. And people have collected out there. There's a lot of commotion going on. And then this man comes down, the zamindar comes down and says, what's going on? So people are like, we don't know who he is. He was in the dharmshala, he was thrown out. And then they check his papers, and in his pocket, they find that newspaper clipping that the zamindar had sent to find his son. And then he realizes that that man was actually his son. And suddenly he brings him inside the dharmshala. When he was suffering, he did not let him stay in the room. Now, when he is dead, he is bringing him into the room. What kind of feelings are these? You call these real feelings. Most of us don't have real feelings. A real feeling is not dependent on all of this. A real feeling is simply a blossoming or a flowering. It's a natural occurrence inside you. Leo Tolstoy, in his biography, he has shared, and this is a true story. He says, my mother used to go in this carriage to the opera. And there were certain scenes, and there would be so many handkerchiefs because she would be crying her heart out at the whole poignancy of whatever was happening. And yet, but there was never really any time when she would suddenly walk out and she would say, I want to go back home. He belonged to a royal family, okay? So the coachman had to keep waiting for her, even in that snow, and it was so cold. And there were times when the coachman was so cold that he would freeze to death. And she would just say, okay, throw him off and get me a new coachman. Leo Tolstoy said, I could not believe that my mother, who was crying at those poignant scenes in that opera, could do something as insensitive as this. And you call these real feelings? These are not real feelings. When we say these are feelings which are coming out of attachment, nothing else. If it is all conditioned to me and mine, or what I am attached to, these feelings are a result of that. So only an integrated human being has real feelings. We don't have real, till you are fragmented in your mind, you don't have real feelings. You only have feelings for me and mine. Maybe a little bit your circle has improved or whatever, but really it is it's like, does your heart, when we did Save Soil, there was the youth ambassador at United Nations for safe the environment, for the environment department or whatever. And she was almost in tears as she spoke of the trees and the soil. And Sadhguru, she was in an interview with Sadhguru, and Sadhguru said, yes, I know your heart beats for it. You can cry for it. This is a genuine feeling. No, there is some sort of integration. It's not just me and mine. So how, or look at Buddha. He came back. What is his need to come back and do this for everybody? Bring enlightenment to everybody. But that's it, out of his own compassion, because compassion is that feeling. It is a natural, spontaneous overflow which happens, which feels love towards everyone. That is why it is love and not attachment. Make sense? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. All right. So feelings are true feelings are that which arise from within. They are not related to others. And only a whole and integrated being is peaceful. So when you're talking about peace, only someone who has come to his antahkaran, who is established in that purity of wisdom, will come into this state. So okay, 66. This was Swami Mukundananda's, I think, because he speaks so here when Osho speaks, and from the awareness perspective, we are talking of somebody who is a sthita prajna, who is established in his inner wisdom. But when the bhakti commentators speak, they will translate it like resolute intellect, which is only contemplating on God, which is marinating your mind in God. Only for that one, this state of peace, this state of bliss will happen. Okay, so this is just for information. All right. The same way the wind makes the boat rock on water, the senses which are part of the mind keep moving around sense objects and keep keep away the intelligence of an individual who is divided within himself. Therefore, O Arjun, an individual who is not dominated by his senses nor by sense objects, his intelligence is there. So if you're not dominated, yes, your intelligence is in a state of stillness. So what should I do? Should I resist my desire? So see, if when when you direct all the energy of the mind towards sense objects, the mind becomes a windstorm. Okay, it's like desires will create windstorm. Okay, so and then once the storm is there, then the boat, which we call the boat of your samadhi, practice towards samadhi, will sink. Okay, so this storm can rise. Now, what should you do? Should you resist? Should you resist the wind of desire? This is a very interesting explanation. This is really from an understanding perspective. So if I have a desire, if the wind of the storm is blowing, then what happens to my boat of peace? If there is everything is peaceful, I'm not getting pulled in this direction, I'm not getting pulled in that direction, my boat is very peaceful, it is sitting there. Second situation is my boat is tethered to the shore, which means I am in some way, either my mind is marinating in God or I am sticking to that which I consider as my highest value. So I'm tethered. So that also protects me. But suppose I'm in the middle and these storms start blowing. What should I do with my desires? Should I resist them? How will you resist? So, it's like this. I'm moving my hand. Now, if this movement of the hand is a result of those storms and this is my boat, how should I resist it? Like this? Is this the way to resist a desire? No. You simply stop moving. Who is moving? You are moving, no? So you simply stop moving. It's an understanding sutra. Really see if you can get it. It's like somebody is running, okay? He's running, running, running. And then he's telling you, I want to stop running because I want to stop running. I want to stop running. So then you stop and you ask him, is someone pushing you? Is someone pulling you? If nobody is pushing you and nobody is pulling you, then who is running? You are running, no? So just stop. There's a very nice example. See, this I just remembered.
Swati, can you move the mouthpiece closer to your mouth? You might have
Oh, yeah,
not.
okay. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So, once Sri had spoken, he says, see, when you know something is hurting you or burning you, if an iron is burning you, you touch the iron, what do? You just drop the iron, no? You don't keep holding it on, isn't it? You just drop it. Like that, you just drop it. You don't have to resist it. There is no resisting a desire. You simply drop it. Now, how do you do this? This is really genuinely practically easier said than done. It is the path of awareness, but Osho gives a real example from his life. He says that there's there's a gentleman who came to him and he says, I have been doing so much mantra chanting and whatnot. I want to get rid of this anger inside me. I have so much anger and I keep getting angry. So Osho gave him a piece of paper on which he wrote, I am starting to become angry. He says, you just keep this piece of paper with you in your pocket wherever you are, always carry. And whenever you think that you are getting angry, you just take out this piece of paper and look at it and read it. I am starting to get angry, and your anger will dissolve. This is something which one must experiment with and one must try. Don't think these are just like nice, cute examples. No, you have to really, it has to be done. It's a practice like, some of the Buddhist monks, they do this practice of carrying stones. They'll carry, say, 3 or 4 stones in one pocket and the other pocket is empty. Every time they do something which is against their value or what they have decided for the day, they'll pass the stone into the other pocket. These are practices. Mind needs training. It will not happen by listening to it and cute examples, very nice story. No, we have to put it into practice. So try that for yourself, that I'm going to do this and I'll take it out, see what happens if there is something that you need to bring awareness to. Because the whole thing that we have been told is you just shine the light of awareness, it will dissolve. But awareness is a slow path. It takes time, but keep doing some of this practice and see what happens. I would love to hear from you. If Sangeeta, if you want to share, anybody has done, really genuinely done a practice and seen that something has dropped off, fallen off, desire or a certain attachment, or has been able to settle the storm and make his boat peaceful. Simply,
I can
yes, yes,
can
Sangeeta.
share from some research that I've done, like on the from the neuroscience perspective. So you have like a strong urge or desire or even anger, anything. It's coming from your amygdala, right? From your
Mm.
emotional brain. Now, in when we teach, like in the schools, when we teach like the topic of emotional regulation, we we have them name the emotion, like to name it, like what exactly are you feeling? I'm like you just said, like I'm feeling anger coming on, like like to read that thing. When you do that, when you name it, you're actually using your frontal prefrontal cortex, which is the the rational logical part of the brain. So in order to name something, you have to come away from the amygdala into the prefrontal cortex. So just by doing that, you reduce the charge in the amygdala, so the emotional brain has a time to dereg down regulate, and the prefrontal cortex turns on to take the charge away from that strong emotion or feeling.
That's nice. That's great. So see, we've got the science behind it. We have this, the spiritual wisdom coming to us. Anyone who has experienced this, practiced a certain awareness, and seen something fall off. Think about it. Share on the group. Bhante.
So I can speak a little bit.
हाँ बोलो विनय.
I've dealt with anger issues for a very long time, and always the excuse was, oh, my boss is the reason, or kids are the reason, sometimes a spouse or somebody like that. But then when you start watching it, you realize the anger is really inside you. It just finds some poor victim to come out on, right? The excuse may be different. It could be the dog, the neighbor, somebody pisses you off on the road. 100 different excuses, but really the anger is inside you. It's like a volcano willing to come out. And usually it's tied to fear or guilt or shame or something else, right? But yeah, as you slow it, now this has taken more than a decade, but yeah, just watching it, observing it, and watching it come up and how it comes up and how it manifests itself and taking ownership of it. It's a slow process, it's a painful process, it's full of failure. But yeah, over a very long period of time, just watching it, it collapses, it goes
It
away.
collapses. So
Yes.
I'll share one incident, an actual incident from my observation. So I was in we had these friends over at home, nice friends, yeah, and you know, but that lady there has too much attachment to her own disease, and keeps going talking about the disease. And I was like, something in me began to get irritated. Now, this is my samskara. Like, why would you keep, talking? Are you giving it so much energy? Do you want to invite more of this in your life? Some issue, but just the way she went on and on, to the extent that she told me that, Swati, I'm speaking of something so serious and you are, whatever, diverting attention or something like that. I said, I mean, within my mind, I couldn't make sense of it. That if something is not pleasant, why do you want to give it so much energy? And I noticed it rising inside me that I might just say something, and I've been a short tempered person. And then I simply sat and I knew that I had to just let this pass. It's like, water is rising. So I just simply sat and I began to observe the sensations rising in my body. I began to observe the breath, how it was moving, and I just told myself that I will not open my mouth. That's the only thing I told, because I knew if I'd opened my mouth, I would say something which I would I would repent later. So I just because I was irritated, and I just watched my sensations, this thing, and it diffused. It diffused, and whatever had to happen happened, and the whole conversation, things changed. But in that observing my sensations and breath and catching myself in the middle of a social event and conversation and going into awareness, I think this is very important. Don't think awareness practice and all this talk is for Bhagavad Gita class. Now, when you return to your children, to your husband, to your families, and to your friends, to your office, watch that. Carry this lens with you and apply it. Only then it will become a reality. So, so desire requires cooperation. Desirelessness requires just don't cooperate with it. So in that moment of irritation, I just decided I'm not going to cooperate. I know this, I could watch it. This irritation wants to snap and it wants to say something. And I was ready. It is at the tip of my tongue. And then I was like, no, let's watch the sensations that are driving this. What breath is driving? Where is it rising? How is my energy moving inside? So I was listening. Oops, my battery is running low. 1 second. Okay. All right. So just watching the movement of that sensations, that will help. So then you do not cooperate with it. This is also a desire. Maybe it's a negative desire to snap at somebody, but it's a desire. You know, within me, my samskara wants to go and blow out and give it back. But it is this is how you do not cooperate with desire. Don't cooperate with it. And
I think just one quick point,
ah,
in watchfulness, I think the big epiphany for me was to be non-judgmental, because when we are watching ourselves and we have feelings of fear or anger or something come up, it's very easy to start judging
oh
yourself
yeah,
negatively. And I think that kind of beats the process. You have to watch, but at the same time be non-judgmental. Just be
very important.
detached.
Very
Because if not,
important.
you still get caught up in that loop where now from fear you're feeling you have guilt and other things going on. So you have to be a little detached and non-judgmental. That's very important.
Yes, no, this is like what we are saying. Sometimes rubbish comes out of you. Smelly things, stench will come out of you, that which wants to snap, that which wants to get angry. And this is what Sadhguru is saying. Don't worry about it. Don't tell yourself, I'm bad, I'm miserable, I'm this thing. Just like you are told not to give labels to others, your body is also the other. Don't give it any labels. It simply is. Something is releasing. Just let it release. You simply watch what is releasing. In that watching, you will dissolve it. You are not this, you are not that. You are simply an observer. Very important. If you start judging yourself, you will create more problems. It's a very vicious cycle.
Swati, what I found very helpful was in the Yoga Sutra write-up that you sent us right in the beginning. You've done one bit about not to be reactive.
Yes.
About that person was promised, his dying grandfather took a promise that don't react tomorrow. Right? So I started practicing that in my life. And I found that to be, because I think you have to give yourself a break, give yourself some time to resolve all of these things. It's not immediate for people who are not yogis. So when you don't react, you give your intellect time to understand how important it is or not, and then how to react if you have to. So that was very, very helpful in all of this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. And thank you for sharing. So yes, do not react, respond. Choose to consciously respond. So I could have, like in the same, I could have also reacted. I could have snapped. Then that becomes a reaction. But then in that situation, I chose to respond. I became aware. I'm not saying awareness always happens. Sometimes, in social situations, friends, you just get so caught up with what is going on, you forget the inside. So yeah, so that's nice. All right, moving on. I want to complete this chapter. Okay, 69. Oh, Arjun, what is dark night for all beings is wakefulness for those who have attained godliness. All those who are destructive, who live in ephemeral worldly happiness, call it wakefulness. But for the wise man who knows it is a dark night. Okay, so what they are saying is that this world is actually a dark night, but for the one who has awakened or who has become enlightened, even when he's sleeping, he's awake. Understand this. Couple of things here. Now, the first thing is to clarify, because Osho has mentioned this. He said many commentators use this shloka and explain this as a metaphor that darkness is referring to you are full of desires and therefore you are ignorance, and this is the darkness that Krishna is talking about. And this is how they have explained. They have explained it in metaphorical and symbolical ways. Now, here Osho says this is not a metaphor. It is the night. It is not a metaphor for night symbolizing ignorance. He says a person who is enlightened, he never sleeps. His body sleeps, but he never sleeps. A very lovely story. Anand, this is a true story. This is true from Buddha's life. Anand is Buddha's cousin and he is older than him. So when Buddha is initiating him, before he initiates Anand, Anand takes 3 promises from Buddha. He says, you have to let me sleep with you. I will always be with you and I will also sleep with you. If I ever ask you any question, you have to answer me immediately. And if I bring anyone to you, you have to allow me to do that. He says, because after this initiation, I will become your disciple. Only this is my last time to be still older than you, so I can give you instructions. After this, I can never give you instructions. So Buddha agrees. After that, Anand always sleeps in the same room as Buddha. And he notices that whenever Buddha sleeps, there is no movement. Wherever he has placed his hand, it is like that. There is no movement at all. It's almost like a corpse. So he almost sleeps like a dead body. Those of you who have read Midnights with a Mystic, Sadhguru's book, somebody has spoken about how he sleeps. There is no movement. It is like that. Those of you who have read Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramhans Yogananda is so Mukunda when he is with his guru. He is so intrigued by his guru when he's sleeping because he's so still and he wants to go and check, is he actually breathing? So he tries to take I don't know what, a plastic or something, to see if there is some condensation or vapors happening, when he's breathing out from his nose. And then his guru wakes up and he catches him. So, but there is a mention of that little cute incident. But this is how enlightened beings are. So what happens? Anand asks Buddha, are you really sleeping? What is it? So he says, my body sleeps. I do not sleep. I am still awake. The one who is enlightened, he is always awake. Even when he sleeps, only the body sleeps. He does not sleep. Please understand this. The body and he are different. Even though he sits inside the body, his body and he are different. He really is identified with that Atma, that pure consciousness. That is why, he does not suffer. The body feels pain, but he does not suffer. He knows this is happening in the body. This is the way the body functions. So, and this capacity to be awake even while you sleep, it exists in small ways. You may have noticed, those of us who do yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is a practice of becoming absolutely restful, but you should not go to sleep. But you're lying down, you don't move the body. So sleep is called as sleep is presence of your absence. Does that make sense? What is sleep? Sleep is presence of your absence, correct? But if you are present all the time, there is no sleep. Nidra is a vritti in Yoga Sutras we studied, correct? If you are present all the time, there is no sleep, correct? Right? Okay. So this is what he says, that an enlightened being, a mystic, he never really sleeps. And in small ways, we may have experience. See, if a group of people are sleeping, okay, we are all sleeping, and someone comes into the room and says, Sangeeta. Now, even if Sangeeta is sleeping, and if she's like a little bit awake, she is the only one who will respond to Sangeeta. I will not respond to Sangeeta, no, because it is her name. That means somewhere deep down, there is that thing within us which is not really asleep, which is awake. Okay. Now, people in the worldly life, in the world, they are actually asleep. They are not in wakefulness. Even though we have our eyes open, we are talking, we are doing, you will think that, oh, you are awake. No, you're not awake because you're not conscious. Because you are not present. You keep on doing things, but you are not present. It's like sometimes the TV is running, you are there in front of the TV, you're talking to somebody asks you, what did the news reader say? You cannot say that because you're not conscious. So even though we appear to be awake, We are not really awake. We are running in a hypnosis. In a habitual, conditioned way, we are just simply running through life like a hypnosis, like hypnotized being. Like in some mohan, we are moving. Okay. So what do I have here? What is sleep for everyone is wakefulness for the wise man. It's an extraordinary statement. Osho says one can be awake while sleeping. I spoke about Yoga Nidra. Now, all right, I think I covered that. Now, the 70th verse. Those who are self-realized are known to be immovable, just like the ocean, which remains unchanging. Isn't it? They are so still. You know, whatever happens, it's like Buddha does not react. To whatever, he does not react. Somebody tries to kill him, doesn't react. Somebody insults him, doesn't react. They look immovable, so sthir. It's like sthir, na? That's sthirta. Just like the ocean, which remains unchanging, even though it is filled by the waters of many small rivers. The same way, an individual who abides in a state of stillness is immovable and remains unchanging, even while enjoying any kind of sensual pleasures. Such an individual is bound to attain the ultimate peace. Okay. So, uh, I think that's very self-explanatory. So he is like an ocean. Many rivers flow into it, but ocean does not become over full and starts flowing out. Okay. And uh, it is the same. It never looks like it is being filled from many directions. So enlightened being is just like the ocean. It remains the same before the river goes into it, and it remains the same even if another river comes into it or goes out of it. Does that make sense? He remains the same. He remains unchanging. We are not like this. One stimulus happens, we swing this way. Another stimulus happens, we swing that way. Nothing changes in him. He's like the ocean.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
like the Zen monk who was given the child, and then he said, "Is
correct,
that so?" And
correct,
then
correct. That story which I shared on the group chat today.
it's
Please,
applicable.
yeah, absolutely. So now the 71st and 72nd. So that's a characteristic of an enlightened being. Remember, Arjun had asked Krishna, what is an enlightened being like? Because an individual who is beyond all desires for sensual pleasures and lives his life without any attachment, without ego, ambition, will attain peace. So Swami Mukundananda says, free from a sense of greed, proprietorship, and egoism. That person achieves peace. 72nd is the last verse of chapter 2. O Arjun, an individual who has attained the ultimate abides within the ultimate reality. Once he has attained the ultimate reality, he no longer has any attachment, and being in a state of stillness, even at the moment of death, he attains the supreme ecstasy of ultimate reality. See, there is, before I go further, I just remembered something. So we speak of wakefulness and sleep. There is a practice that Sadhguru he's given us. He says, when you sleep, you just watch your breath, okay? Inhaling, exhaling, watch. See, most of us do not know. Can you tell me at what moment you went to sleep yesterday? When you went to sleep, at what exact moment you went to sleep? Most of us don't know. But if you can remember this itself is like a sadhana. It can help you into transcendence. You just keep watching. I have done this several times and failed every time. Many times I do it, then I give up, then I fail, then I forget. But I used to try it because it's so simple. So when you're sleeping, you just watch, inhale, exhale, and then you slept. In the morning, you should be able to remember on which breath did you sleep. Did you fall asleep on an inhale or did you fall asleep on an exhale? It doesn't mean that you start actually breathing in and out. Whichever way it's moving, you let it move, but you notice. Be in awareness. So, I mean, try it if you want. It's a simple practice, but we will speak more on how, through sleep and dream and how practices are used to come into how you can become aware in sleep. I will tell you my teacher's example, Manoj. Okay, Manoj is like this. He was teaching one of the Gita classes, and it's not in this chapter. I don't know if it was this chapter or another one, where he had to speak about this sleep and how you can be awake in sleep. And Osho has given sadhana, which we'll look at later, of how you can practice being awake in sleep. Now, the problem with us is that we are not even awake when we are awake. So forget about trying to get awake when you're asleep. Even
That's
when we
what I
are,
was trying to say. Sorry for
yes,
interrupting, Swati. That I think being aware when we are sleeping is a tall order. Let's start with
yes,
becoming aware in our waking hours.
yes, we are hypnotized even in our waking hours. So what he did is he programmed his mind. Okay, and this is my teacher, and he does all this. He said he programmed his mind that today in my dream I will see myself as an Afghan boy who is shot, and then the moment that shooting happens to the Afghan boy, in that dream I will become aware that I am dreaming. Okay, he programmed his mind like this, and then he goes into sleep, and that actually happens. And he said it happened. So for some time, I was not able to come into that recollection that, oh, this is just a dream. But then it happened. So the dream becomes more real for us. This is what is happening for most of us. In our wakeful state, this is a dream. For the enlightened one, this life is a dream. That is reality. For us, this is reality. And it's like my husband tells me, you are in a dreamland only. So for him, all this is what we call real and what someone else calls dream. It is just so debatable. So, all right. So that is on, what are you sleeping or are you awake? Please keep asking yourself. What disturbs peace? So Swami Mukundananda says, because these shlokas are referring to the peaceful state of that being. Material desires, we spoke of that. They will disturb your peace. Greed will disturb your peace, obviously, because there's attachment. Ego can disturb your peace. Look at this in our organizations today. Many people are very competent, they have the skill, but ego can be such a factor that it can actually, inhibit their growth. Relationships can be an issue for people. Proprietorship. So, we want to leave our footprints. Sangeeta, you had shared something very nice on footprints once. Patani, I'll look up on my WhatsApp and find out. Sangeeta shared something very beautiful on footprints. I remember in one of our classes. But basically, proprietorship is I want to leave footprints. In yoga, we are being told don't leave footprints. Try not to leave any footprints. Move in a way that nobody even knows that you are there. Be so gentle and walk on the earth like, no, it emphasizes that gentleness. Like Sadhguru says, all these people, who built these temples, these glorious temples, and if you see the sculpture there, he said, has anyone gone and signed their name on it? They have done it as an offering. You should live like that. Proprietorship is a problem in the path of peace. Okay. Then is the now all of this happens. The question is, did Arjun ask Krishna about his liberation? Arjun wanted to escape from the war, and he only asked Krishna, what is an enlightened being like? And then Krishna uses that opportunity. So Osho has shared in the commentary that Krishna turns Arjun's question totally around. Arjun did not ask this question, but he's getting a totally different answer because Krishna sees an opportunity and he has used this opportunity very creatively. So, Joe, that which can turn, for lack of a better word, I'm saying problems or conflicts, that which can turn problems and conflicts also into an opportunity, into a blessing, that is called Gyan. Gyan is that which can turn things around. So where a curse will start becoming a blessing. Arjun really feels, no, this is such a curse for him to be in such a situation, such a curse. But Krishna turns the whole thing around and makes him see the blessing that this is the opportunity of your lifetime. If Arjun had gone to a psychologist, what would a psychologist tell him? Arjun, this is a war. You're being asked to fight your own. Obviously, you'll be anxious. Neurosis happens. Don't worry. He will not even let him become total in his anxiety. The path of a seeker is become total. If you don't try to corrupt your memory, Become total. Feel the misery so deeply that you will come out of it. I'll give you a very nice example. Osho shares this from his own life, his own experience. He says, I used to go swim in the river in my village. So he says sometimes there were these whirlpools and you can get caught in a whirlpool. So if you try to fight the whirlpool, you will stay on the surface. You'll always be in that conflict. You'll always be fighting. But if you let your body be and collapse, you will go to the bottom of the whirlpool. And in that bottom of the whirlpool, you will escape the whirlpool. That's what he says. He says you must be total in whatever you do. If you are feeling misery, don't try to lessen your misery. See, that's why when somebody dies in a family, you don't try, you let them feel the misery. This is the intelligence of our culture, no? You let them. It is important to grieve. The importance of grieving is given in our culture. You must grieve. Because if you don't, it will not leave you. Then you will mutilate your memory. Like Sangeeta said, no, that people try to block their trauma. Then you will not come into a release. You have just covered it. Does that make sense? So becoming total is very important. So Krishna uses this opportunity to turn the whole question around for Arjun. And by the end of Bhagavad Gita, the war Arjun has forgotten. He is talking only about moksha and liberation. This is Gyan. Gyan is that which turns curse into a blessing. I'll tell you from Sadhguru's life, there was a lot of resistance. See, when he built this foundation and all, and the very South Indian population there, and they thought that he was trying to convert these people into brahmacharis, that our girls will leave the householder life, and he's inviting them to the ashram, and uh, they were not supportive of this. In fact, very against if Sadhguru. So Sadhguru says, yes, there are people who keep throwing bricks at me, but they don't know that if they throw bricks at me, I'm going to make a house out of it, or I'm going to make a temple out of it. That's Gyan. That which will turn everything into a blessing. That which will treat everything as prasad. That is Gyan. So that is chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. Now you can share anything that you want to share, any thoughts that you have, any practices that you have done, or any comments. How is it going? Is it creating aha moments for you? Is the Gita commentary creating aha moments for you or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It's a treasure. I feel each class is a treasure. I feel like, oh, I enjoy it. And then I want to be always with that. I'm just trying to figure out a way to keep it. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing any practices, So today also I started thinking like, hey, tomorrow is my day. Uh, just wake up and take bath, do prayer and sit before God and meditate. Those 7 minutes, right?
Yes.
But what keeps me dragging back is if I want to do what I like, the ultimate thing I have to do is sacrifice my sleep, wake up little earlier, and a lot of juggling happening in my mind. Like when you say about we are fragmented a lot, we don't eat at peace, we don't do things at peace, we are not awake. And all these, I started thinking like, hey, is there any that enlightened being who is enlightened and still doing all these fragmented things? How are they able to successfully do a job, take care of kids, do what you love? I get it, right? A family have to give you like 20 minutes. What kind of family it is if they can't? And it is all about priorities, and all that ultimately puts pressure on the brain.
You have to
So,
look at your priorities, Shravanti, and somehow make 7 minutes. Reduce 2 minutes from bath time, reduce 2 minutes from sleep time, and somewhere else. Just reduce
yeah.
2 minutes from 4-5 activities, you'll get your 7 minutes. And just do the miracle of the mind. If nothing, sit on your bed before you go to sleep. put Miracle of the Mind, just sit on your bed. It's all right. Just keep your spine straight. That's the only thing. It's only 7 minutes. Before you go to sleep, you just put it and then go to sleep. You
Yeah,
can do that.
understood.
It is relaxing also. Don't try to wait for Shubh Muhurat nahi hoga. Don't wait for a Shubh Muhurat. Now, and now is auspicious. That is very important.
Yeah, I'll tell
Uh,
you next class. I should be
yes.
able to the whole day.
Okay. So there is one thing I want to say. See, there is a lot of practical application with Gita shlokas that we understand, that we learn. But there is something which happened to me with Gita commentary. My mind began to unknot. It began to unknot like this, and suddenly there were like light bulbs shining in my head. This really, it's not like there is practical application. My own sadhana takes care of it, but it's like bolte na dimag ki batti jal gayi. I really felt it. The person I was when I started Bhagavad Gita and the person I became by the end of Bhagavad Gita are two different people. There is like there is a layer which got reprogrammed in me, and that is only based on understand. Some things are understanding based. अगर समझ में आ गया तो वो knot खुल जाती है, you know. So we all have these knots in our head. So I don't know if this is happening for people. Are you feeling that? Aha, aha. I was like going through this. Aha, aha, cut, clean, clean. Is that happening? Yeah. Yes.
That
Varsh.
happens during the class for sure.
100% Swati is like, I don't call it lights going on, I call it micro explosions. But yes,
Yeah.
it
Yes.
happens, yes. No,
Yeah.
no question about it.
So those explosions are breaking those knots.
Yes, a lot more to go, but yes.
Okay, good. So, okay, I have, okay, how is memory altered? We covered. When we say obstacle increases or intensifies desire, then how to keep control of kids these days, either be from screens or from any other attractions. This is, what do you mean? You mean to say, how do I keep children away from, please take them, spend more time in nature. I will give you Sadhguru's guidance on parenting. So see if you can give them more time in nature. Keep them. See, there are 4 tips for children that are given. Keep them close to music. Very important. Music is very important in everybody's life. Children especially. Take them in nature. So sometimes when you're in Florida, so at least weekends, taking them out. I will send you those. So that will help. And just exposing them to uh, just the kind of company and satsang. But I will send this to you. I think your question is just with, do I understand your question correctly?
Yeah, what I basically mean is like when kids start going to school, they spend a lot with the friends, the surroundings, right? And the more we keep something keep telling something to them, they will get aversion towards it.
Correct.
It's specifically not the screens, but how to keep close them, bring them closer to this spiritual things or anything or whatever. It's a very generic question. When there is a lot of impurity or
Okay, I think
distractions around and stuff, how
so.
to, yeah.
I think your question or your desire is the same as every parent's desire on this group. How do I make it happen for my children? Okay, how do I bring spirituality for my children? How do I somehow make them aligned to Krishna? Okay, first you focus on yourself. Forget about children. Let them do what they're doing. You focus on yourself. You let them see what you are doing. This is a process. This they will imbibe, and it's a very slow process. It happened to all of us when we were little children. We were not like this, but we imbibe. By the time it's a certain age, but they should see you doing it. They should see you focus on intensifying your practice, and it will spill over and it'll come to your children. Even Sadhguru says that you can't force and push them. Can you explain the word wisdom? Okay. Wisdom is a certain sense. It's like I know that I know. It's a certain skill. It's like a certain knack. Today, if I want to know something, how do I know? I will either go research. If I have to say buy a refrigerator, some small example. How do I know? I will I will research. I will find the best brand, etc., etc. And based on that, I have certain knowledge. I have used my intellect to come to a certain knowledge. Mm, wisdom, but it is about functional, something very functional in life, like व्यावहारिक life जिसे हम बोलते हैं उसके लिए है. Wisdom is about how to move in life. Wisdom connects with that. How do I? It's not about buying a refrigerator. Wisdom does not connect with. You don't need wisdom to know which refrigerator. You need common. You just need some intellectual, a little bit of brain, little bit of, just functional knowledge. Functional knowledge will suffice. Wisdom is not needed for that. Wisdom is needed to know how to move in life. Move in life in a way that will take me towards the highest. Okay, that is wisdom. So and wisdom, and as you do that, it will bring you in harmony. Wisdom refers to a skillful navigation in life, that which takes you towards your highest, or that which takes you towards your liberation. That is wisdom. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Then it's a very simple one, but I used to not like doing my expense report. I would procrastinate. And then one day I realized why. I have to do it either way. So why build resistance within me? So very nice, very good one. So I dropped it. And now I have no problem doing it. Very nice. So is Bonnie still here? No, she's left. Okay. Okay. So that's a good one. I will just do a print screen of this. Okay. So that's a good one. You cannot, it's not by resisting. You just don't cooperate with it. You just don't. It's like, and it falls off by itself. Makes sense? I think her expense report thing makes sense. It's easier to understand, right? Yes. Okay. I like that you observing the sensation and not participating in it. Okay. That is such a powerful technique. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think Bonnie is devouring Osho, so she's going to be sharing more snapshots and I'll share. I also have a question to sublimate desire. Do you give in with awareness and conscience so that going forward the desire lessens and is not that? Divya, I don't get your question.
Oh, Swati, I'm saying that something, sometimes you have a desire for a material thing or an attachment or a feeling, right? If you suppress it, it's not fully suppressed and it keeps coming back.
It will
right?
never, you should never suppress it.
Exactly. So then do you
go fulfill
kind of
it?
watch the
No,
yeah,
go fulfill
that's what
it.
I'm saying.
My
Okay.
goodness, if in my material life, see, there are only two things about desire you can do. If you fulfill it, it's finished. It's finished.
Right.
It's done. I've become fulfilled. I no more have that desire. Okay. If I want to, hold Gita classes, it's a desire I have. I have to study. Then go fulfill it. Go do the work and the effort that is needed to do it. Okay. If I want to become a doctor, it's a desire you have. Don't make wishful thinking. Then go apply the effort, study, and become that. If you cannot fulfill it, burn it. Burn the seed. Practice, use awareness, use your meditation practices. Over a period of time, some desires will burn. These are the only two ways. You can either fulfill it or you can burn it. What you cannot fulfill, I am hoping my practices will burn it. I don't know. Some of these things happen by grace. These things happen by grace. They are not all your effort. Some things will just leave you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We are good. Okay. Anything else from anybody else? Good. Nice. Okay. So we will meet for chapter 3 after 2 Sundays. Next 2 Sundays, I will not be able to hold the class. And we'll meet again after that. Okay. So meanwhile, the videos are there. All the recordings are there. If you like, you can go into chapter 3. You can start reading up basic commentaries. You can just read up. It will help. Just read Swami Mukundananda's. Just read, like, like it's very simple, short also. So basic commentary you can read and then we can take it on from there. Okay, so we just take the closing mantra. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Namaste. Thank you very much. 10:35. I had no idea. Sorry.
Thank you, Swati. Very quickly.
Yes.